WeRiseMag.com.
It's like 1 minute you're 35, and the next thing you know, bam, you're 29. Well, here's a number you'd be happy to admit. $1.67 a day for all your calls from home with the AT&T One Rate plan.
It happens every day in refrigerators across the country. It's vegetable resuscitation, where emergency methods like peeling the soggy outer leaves off the lettuce must be used to save the tender heart inside. Unless, of course, you have an Amana Easy Reach refrigerator.
You're having a cookout on your big brand new deck, but something's not quite right. Your friends raise their perfectly prepared burgers in silent tribute to you. Then reality sets in and it hits you. You don't have a deck. You could, though, with a home equity line of credit from PNC Bank. Arden Quartz specializes in caring for people in the early to middle stages of Alzheimer's. We have the expertise and experience to simplify and enhance your loved one's life, and to help you find the peace of mind you deserve. But wait, there's a... This is a vest, a Scotty vest. It looks cool on the outside, but the difference is inside. Let's say you get a text message. Clear touch pockets let you respond without fumbling. Finding it hard to concentrate? The patented personal area network lets you turn on some tunes without getting tangled in headphone wires. You don't even need to take out your iPhone or iPod to play your music. Or make a call. Or do any of the other 7,000 things the iPhone can do. But how can a Scotty vest help if you're going out? It won't remind you to take your keys, but they'll be neatly attached to the extendable key holder. Oh, and you'll need a GPS to find your way back. And a flashlight if it gets dark, unless you're going far enough to need a passport, in which case you'll need to keep your money in a safe place, and all your credit cards. Now if it's hot, you'll need a hydrant ready, or at least drink something, unless you're the one flying the plane.
Whoa. You could break me open and take my candy, but wouldn't you like something better? I'll tell you a secret. I'm a magical piñata, and if you get me down from here, I'll grant you all your wishes. For you, an X-ray machine. For you, a pet cobra. How about sunscreen, pants that fit? Trevor, karate lessons. Just get me down and it's all yours. Come on. Come on. Just so we're clear, kids, I'm not magical.
Yeah! That was acting, children! Bravo for me!
Piñatas have a better place to go. You can custom build your very own piñata world and fill it with all the things piñatas love. Don't beat them, join them. Really for everyone.
For years, the folks on the distant island of Kikoriki have let us watch them live, love, learn, and smack each other around. Well, we thought it was finally about time to let them see what's going on in the great big world outside.
Maybe it's like an ice chest or a
On television?
We'll see everything that's out in the world.
The forces of good are defeated once again! Very soon, you will be destroyed. Forever. I don't know when it happened, but it's clear that the world is in danger. Yeah, we made it. You're true.
This is the Invincible Hit Parade!
What don't you understand? It's television. It's not real. Our spies are watching everything. It's time to go undercover. Those idiots think way too stupid to see that they're working for Caligari.
The wiring diagram is completely different colors. Now it's got this one. Got the red one too, just in case.
Oh, yeah.
Obliterate him! Hold on, little fella, 'cause here's trouble brewing. Stop!
Come on! It's time for us to get on the stick and just go! Awesome! I think blue is your color.
What the devil are you wearing? I said black, nothing but black!
And only bad guys wear black. Oh, hello. Hello.
Does anyone know how to fly one of these things?
All you guys just lost with my minds.
Absolutely.
Welcome to Kikoriki.
World renowned for his physique. He's got the look that's so unique.
By order of the Foxbox censor, Mr. Cheeks will not be hosting the Foxbox. How this butt-faced wrestler was ever chosen in the first place is beyond us. So please, accept our apologies. What? Is this because I am French? No, it's because you have a butt for a face. Surely the Foxbox can find a more appropriate host.
What about me?
Don't even think about it.
Hi, Poopa.
We now return to our regularly scheduled programming. But you can still catch me on Ultimate Mustard. Au revoir! Are you sure you saw a door over here? What? You were the one who said you saw a door over here. Well, I know it was one of us. Shut up and keep looking. What time is it? It's the exact same time as when you asked earlier, and it'll be the exact same time when you ask later. There is no time here! Let me just say that this was a brilliant plan that you came up with. Don't get too self-righteous. It'll be your plan pretty soon. I'm gonna dedicate the rest of my life to forgetting it. I heard that. Do we ever win? That depends on your definition of win. Beating Sonic? Oh, well then no. That doesn't give me much hope. Maybe I'll go back and get my teaching degree. That's not a bad idea. I've always enjoyed telling people what to do.
Before I bore you with those, these are the cute cuddly things I'm doing now. Because it's so topical.
Drinks on me. Can I borrow $10?
Thank you.
Great news! It's only 365 days until next St. Patrick's Day.
Thank you so much.
I'm Irish. It's so hard. There are only two kinds of people in the world. The Irish and those who wish they were.
Thank you so much.
Rub me for luck.
So shut up. Turn this one on. Wait. There you go.
Happy Halloween! One scary mummy coming through.
And probably everyone's favorite.
Goodbye for now.
Thank you so much.
All right, son. Now concentrate and go for it. Just like I taught you. I'm so proud of you, son. It brings tears to my eyes. Literally. Seriously, someone open a window. I just love enjoying the quiet, great outdoors with you, son. Watch out, son. After the thunder comes the rain.
Easter's coming, so if you're looking for the perfect gift.
Does it really happen?
Timber!
That definitely happened.
Perfect for dads and grads.
Strong like you when I grow up, Papa?
It never stops either. Thank you so much. That's what that is, and here's me in a nutshell. It's quite all right. That's not one of my toys. So when I'm not making toys, I started as a kid watching TV and cartoons and listening to the radio and realizing, you know, people make wacky voices. I can make wacky voices. So I started in radio, toiled through radio in my college years, and was a disc jockey. Hey, everybody, it's 7:20, 20 past 7. There she done one of your more favorites, Let's Talk. Did that for a while, and while I was doing that, I made some wacky voices in commercials and realized this is a lot more fun than saying, hey, everybody, it's 7:20. So there's a wacky voice right there. So I started doing wacky voices in commercials, eventually built up a demo tape, and when radio started to turn crappy, I was able to send my demo tape around to studios and suddenly start doing cartoons. So apart from the Dr. Eggman thing from Sonic X and the Sonic video games and this shirt that you all know and love, I was in Saturday morning TV on the Fox Box and 4Kids TV as Meat and Ultimate Muscle, and the mayor and Samo the bartender and Kirby Right Back At Ya. Viva Pinata, I was Langston Lickatoad. Go-Go Riki, I was Big O-Riki. I did promos for the 4Kids TV and the Fox Box for the first couple of years. I was in Pokemon as various characters. I'm in various anime things that people know and love, and like that. So let's open up the floor to questions. Careful, don't fall in when the floor opens up. Thank you. Questions?
With, like, lots of humorous roles and the like, how do you find the motivation to, like, really, like, or just find, like, how do you craft the character so that you can really bring out the role? Especially with things that, you know, people seldom take seriously.
That's an excellent question. I'm a naturally funny guy, so I don't have any problem with comedy. I get comedy. Comedy gets me. But the challenge, if it's not something that you would normally do, is to just try and look at something in a weird way. The world's looking this way, you're over here. You're literally thinking outside the box. So just find some skewed way of thinking of something. Say, okay, this is normal. What would be a little not so normal? And then just find there's humor in everything. One of my non-voiceover stuff that I do is a blog, the latest deadlines, which whenever a celebrity dies, I make jokes about it because it's just so wrong. And I can't help myself. The jokes just seem to come naturally. So I decided, let's share this with the world. So even in stuff that's not at all funny, there's some funny stuff. Questions? That was, yes, sir.
You mentioned you were on the radio. What do you mean when it started to get crappy? What was that?
Radio used to be fun, and you used to be able to have your way with it, and play whatever music you liked within reason, and talk over the music and do wacky characters. And then the big corporate interests came in and started buying up radio stations and making a lot of cookie cutters sound alike. Lots more music, lots less personality, or issue-oriented talk radio, which is all the same, hatred. And it just lost some of the fun, and they started, consolidation was a big thing, so that now the big moguls like Clear Channel will buy a bunch of stations and voice track them. So you'll have one guy in Dallas who's on 14 different stations pretending to be local, and he's not at all. So just the hometown nature of working with a whole bunch of people and having fun left the business. And I spent some time in syndication for also essentially living a lie, writing show content for people that can't write their own stuff. So they would have syndication companies like me provide morning show prep. And it's, I'm having fun now. Question? I like the roles that make me laugh. I'm all about comedy. So a voice like Meat from Ultimate Muscle, who could not laugh at a voice like that? When I am having fun, I am having so much fun in the booth that I will crack myself up, much to the dismay of the director on the other side of the glass, who is, come on, we're on a schedule here, come on. But if I'm not having fun in the booth, it's going to come out in the performance. I've been recently, in the past couple of weeks, doing another audiobook. My first audiobook of any consequence was a 15-hour ordeal about physics. If you like physics, feel free to buy a copy. If you don't, and you have trouble sleeping, I will put you to sleep for 15 hours discussing physics. And the most recent one is another cheery subject, the Nazis, which clocked in at about 11 hours. So if you want 11 hours of me talking about Nazis, that's fine. And those are 5 or 6 hour sessions at a time. Starts out okay, but about the 4th hour, it's like, when's it gonna end? There are still 4,000 pages, I'm still talking. So those are more of a challenge, but even so, I have my fun in the outtakes, which you will most likely never hear. But if you're in a studio with me and I'm reading something, and suddenly it veers right off track, I'm going to have fun with it, and that's the joy that I have. So comedy, whether or not it belongs there, is what I love. Questions?
I guess, what's your favorite line since you've been doing voice work?
Favorite lines, it's a tricky question because they come and go so quickly, as opposed to somebody who's sitting playing a video game at home and playing it over and over again, or watching a video over and over again. I'm reading a line once, maybe twice, and it's on to the next one. But I mean, the lines people remember, I guess, are the Dr. Eggman screaming, "I'll get that hedgehog!" type of thing. But I remember more moments in a show rather than a line. So, for example, in Sonic X, which is a fond memory because it was the first experience of Dr. Eggman with me, but also I got to watch it on Saturday morning with the kids and seemed somehow attempt to follow the plot. But there was a moment in the show where completely implausibly someone phones in during the cartoon, and he takes a call from a viewer. So he answers the phone with a hearty "hello." That just amused me. So dopey things like that. Question.
What's it like playing two Dr. Robotniks in Sonic Generation? How would you distinctify each one?
They actually said they're supposed to sound the same, because the older one was not me originally, but they said, it's just going to sound like you. So I just read down the dialogue. I just read down, as I recall, and again, it was one of those 4 hours in a studio 2 years ago, but I just read through the scene. I'm reading one line. I'm reading the next line. Now the first line. Now this line. And then they just put it together where it belonged. So people say it sounded different, and I said, well, then I wasn't doing it right, because it shouldn't have, but it was mostly the same. But the big the challenge in Sonic X was also playing Ella the Maid, which most people don't know, which I love that people don't know. And that was just me doing a completely different voice that didn't sound like Dr. Eggman. Question.
Do you have a favorite theme park announcement from Sonic Colors?
My favorite one is actually an outtake because it never made the cut and it was not really meant to be heard. But we were running through 20, 30 of those in the studio. And I got to the last one. I said, can I just have a moment just for me? I would like to do this one because I was in New York on a high-speed digital phone line with the guys in LA. So I did one for the LA guys of the departure announcement at LAX. The white zone is for immediate loading and unloading of passengers only. There's no parking in the red zone. They enjoyed that. Never made the cut. But so one of the real ones, no, they're all very good. And I enjoyed reading them, and I laughed a lot when I read them. But I remember once in the recording the little bit that I got to add myself. There's not a lot of room for ad-libbing, but there is room for making it your own. So in the one announcement where Eggman actually reacts to something being so ridiculous, he says, "Who wrote this?" I did a little technical thing of, let me go off mic so that it sounds like he's talking to someone else. And I went, "Who wrote this?" Very subtle, but that was mine. I did that. Thank you. Question?
I guess if you ever got the chance to be in a scary show, what would you sound like as a murderer?
I've done some murderous things. There was a thing on my website I could dig up, but of course I'm here now, so I could just do it live. For some cable show that I should remember the name of, and there was a website for it, but it was a very ominous, sort of an eerie sort of a thing. And I remember doing it and saying, wow, I'm creeping myself out when I'm reading this. I would not want to meet myself in a dark alley. That's one possibility. Question?
Who are some of your inspirations for voice acting?
Bill mentioned Mel Blanc. Mel Blanc is obviously a genius. I grew up watching his cartoons and listening to his children's records that they spun off from the cartoons. The other cartoon greats of that era, the Doss Butlers of the world, Paul Frees especially, the cast of Rocky and Bullwinkle, who I had the pleasure of speaking with ever so briefly on the phone when I was in high school. I spoke with all of them that were still alive. Bill Scott, June Foray, Paul Frees. Didn't sound very well at the time, but I respected his body of work from before when he sounded better. And on the radio in New York, there was a guy, if you check YouTube, you can find clips of Gene Clavin. He did a radio show that was all him, but doing dozens of other voices, having conversations with himself. I admire that because it's an extreme challenge to switch. I could do lots of voices, but it's tough to switch them on a dime like that. And he would just do it ad-libbing and making a whole conversation with himself. That was fascinating. So those guys. Questions?
Conference for voice actors?
There are conventions that they have. There's a thing in, there was one in LA every couple of years called Voice, and whatever year it was. So there's a Voice 2010, there was a Voice 2012. You pay some money, you fly out to LA if you're not already there, and you see, it's like a trade show. So there are booths of people selling various microphones, various microphone isolation equipment, recording stuff, coaching and classes. It's not necessarily the most valuable experience in the world. I'd rather be spending my money buying studio equipment and working with it. But yeah, there are those kinds of things, but those are for people. There's a whole broad range of voiceover beyond just animation, which is not a problem. It's the nature of the business. There's commercials and promos and narrations, audiobooks, e-learning, plush animals. So it's all that. It's the whole genre of animation. Of voiceover. There's not a whole lot of animation that was covered there. I went one year as an assistant to one of the coaches that I work with, and I went there because I'm an animation guy, and I was there to discuss animation. So yeah, there are things like that. And I'm trying to remember a website for them. Google Voice 2012, and you'll find out if, I imagine there's a Voice 2014, which at this point I don't plan to go to. But there's that, and there's a whole bunch of other websites around that have castings and coaching. And so yeah, there's a big online presence now with voiceover. Question?
I'm used to usually working with like my directors actually in person,
Mm-hmm.
you know, or behind the booth, or outside the booth and everything. What's it like working with high-speed phone line and like the directors being patched in from LA?
It's weird, but it's really me being in radio for so many years. I'm used to not seeing stuff, but it's like talking to somebody on the phone. So you're having a phone conversation, but they're essentially just saying, "Okay, now we're recording this. Do that again." And it's no different. It's more fun being there in person. I had a session in LA one day with the whole Sonic cast, which was really cool, and met the director for the first time. And it's really cool to work with everybody in one big room. But most of the type of stuff I do is very one-on-one, or maybe one-on-three, depending on who's on the other side of the glass. So it's no different. I would rather be working with someone in person, but I have no problem with just talking to someone over the phone. Either way, you're being told what to do and making sure you do it. Question?
Since you are so into comedy, is it weird doing something more dramatic? Like, is it more difficult to get into the mindset, or?
No, I can do both, and I have no problem doing both. I like the fun of the comedy versus the challenge of drama. I've done several dramatic things recently, and I'm like, oh, right, I can still do this. I forgot that I used to do this in school dramas and in community theater and stuff. And so, yeah, it's fun to remind myself, oh, hey, I can actually do something really serious, and it comes out sounding pretty good. So it's fun just to be able to stretch my own boundaries. But even so, even if it's something really serious, like the Turkish dramas, soap operas that Bill was mentioning, which are not so much drama as melodrama, they are really over-the-top mob bosses and corruption and barely watchable stuff. And I'm saying, okay, we're going to be really serious as I'm dying. My character just got burned to death for about 2 minutes. He was wheelchair bound after being shot and thrown out the window in a previous episode. So here he was in his wheelchair. They poured gasoline on him, set a match, and he cried for about 2 minutes. So the entire scene was and there was a lot of that. And it's like, okay, as bad as this is, I'm still doing a reasonable job of playing drama with it. So, but even so, the outtakes of that show are also chock full of completely inappropriate comedy. So, yeah, I can do both, and I have fun doing both, but I'll sneak in comedy even for my own benefit if for no one else's. Question?
How's your day?
The day's been awesome. I was here yesterday with my family. They're now relaxing in the hotel room because they've had enough. And we're having a swell time. How's yours? Great. Thanks all for coming, by the way. Thank you. Question?
Question. Sure. No, I have heard the guy you speaking of, and he has a very similar voice to mine. But no, I am not. I would like to be. Had they asked me, I would have happily have been. But I have done things like your brain for Focus Factor. So, hello, this is your brain. Just a moment, please. That didn't have quite the national reach that the Mucinex guy does, but I wish. Question.
When recording like plush animals like that, do they have a lot of direction to give you, or are they just like, oh, make it up, like, or kind of have this kind of idea?
Yeah, they'll usually, for these things, they came in with some character sketches. They gave me the original designs of like the mummy and the leprechaun, and they have a general idea of what they want. And obviously, in my mind, I'm going for like cheap, cliche, stereotype drunken Irishman. Okay, I got that. But they had the two different ones. So they did, okay, we'll do the one that's up here. There's one. And then there's the one that's here. Here's a different one. Okay, great. Which is basically meat with an Irish accent. Shades of difference. And yeah, they have an idea of what they want, but they pretty much let me play. And they'll give me direction. They'll give me, it's like dog training, gentle corrections, a tug on the leash, and we go a different direction. The only real constraint is because it's a little tiny speaker and a little tiny chip, you can't do some very outlandish sounds because it just sounds like crap when it reaches the little tiny chip. But it's very much like a very small, limited cartoon thing, but it's fun. And it's cool to see myself on Amazon and buying myself in stores and sending them as gifts. I believe with the mummy, I spent more than I earned by just sending them out to people. Look, I'm in a toy. Here you go, have a toy. Question.
You briefly spoke about your theater. Were you, back in college, were you more doing theater or more doing radio, would you say?
I was a television, radio, film production major. I wanted to minor in theater, but the fine folks at Syracuse University say, oh, you can't minor in theater. You must devote your life to theater. Really? So I minored in linguistics, but there was also a theater group, Syracuse University Musical Stage, for the people who wanted to do theater but weren't in the theater program. So I did that. And that was a fun experience. In fact, one of the people I worked with was the highly successful Kevin Michael Richardson, who is now in things like The Cleveland Show. And I wrote to him on Facebook, said, hey, remember when we did that show at SU? Yeah, great, thanks a lot, kid, move along. Fine, bless his heart. So yeah, I kept my feet in the theater, but radio was still my passion at the time, but I was still doing theatrical stuff on the radio. And then life changes. Question?
How does daily life as an actor change, like, with the onset of like marriage, raising a family, et cetera, et cetera?
It is, the day does get very crowded. When the kids are at school and I'm at home, I'll be doing auditions and stuff and recording stuff until about 3 o'clock when they get home from school, and then there's no time for that for a while. Then by the time the kids are in bed, by about 9 o'clock, I can go up and do some more work in the home studio if I need to. And if I'm out and I'm in the city and then the kids come home, and I will get home and my wife will be a little more harried than she was when I left because it's just her versus 2 children. So it's a bit of a challenge. At some point, I had considered a move to LA, but then children came, and rather than uprooting the children, we're staying put in New York for the moment. So at some point when the children are a little more self-sufficient, we may make a westward move because that's where a lot of the animation is happening. But I keep a Google Calendar because I got to know I'm here from this hour to this hour, and then I'm home doing this and this. So it's a very structured, fragmented existence, but always fun. Question?
What field of linguistics did you mainly study?
The only thing that I remember is phonetics, and phonetics comes in handy for this audiobook that I was doing because there was a lot of German in the book because it's about Nazis. I don't speak German, but I can read in the International Phonetic Alphabet. So I will transcribe the German and say words like Wissen, Wissen, and Genischgewischen, Schleifen, something. If there are any Germans here, I apologize. But I was able to make it sound like I spoke German for at least a word or two or a short phrase. So that's the only thing that has carried over, and I guess it's the only thing that I really wanted to learn. but I was interested in just speech and parts of speech and how the vocal tract works and stuff, because as an adjunct to what I do, I like to know the mechanics of your glottis, your epiglottis, and your palate, and your alveolar ridge, and words like that, and phonetic terms like alveolar fricatives and glottal stops and stuff like that. So I am grateful for my phonetics training, which I can now use for at least a small part of what I do. Question, 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 question.
Is it common for voice actors to have a studio, a mini recording studio in their home?
These days it is, yeah. Because with the advance of the internet, there's a lot of online casting and online recording. I prefer to leave the house and go to a real studio just because it's better than being cooped up in the house. But I have a serviceable space in the attic of my house with a microphone, computer running both Audacity and Adobe Audition. And it's normally quiet. There's not a lot of soundproofing in the room, so I do have to contend with the life in the suburbs consisting of the house with the children, the nearby airport, the nearby hospital, the nearby fire department, the neighbors in their landscaping, the house that they're building 2 houses away from mine. So it's a challenge, but it does work for serviceable space. It's perfect for auditions, but I have recorded, for example, a series called The Sensibles. It's about teaching kids about financial independence, and it will be airing somewhere, I think. I don't know. We replaced a bunch of people because they wanted to recast it. So their website still has all the old people on it, and I keep checking, are we there yet? And then we're not yet there yet. But at some point, that'll be there, and I've been able to record that successfully from home. So yeah, it's very helpful to have, and it can be done very inexpensively. You can get a decent USB microphone for about $100. You should already have a computer, I would expect. Audacity is free, and put up egg cartons, you got some soundproofing. And then pay for some auditioning websites if you're willing to make the investment. Question, 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 question.
Do you have any crazy fan experiences?
Yes, I do. I've shared this before, so I have no trouble sharing it again. I'll share 2. This is not quite a fan experience because I didn't know if the kid was a fan, but this is me using a character voice outside of the studio, which I hardly ever do because bopping down the street, I don't get recognized because I'm an anonymous, disembodied voice. But we were at the Meadowlands Fair in the Meadowlands a couple of years back, and we were enjoying some refreshing beverages when one of the midway prizes of the year was life-size Sonic the Hedgehog plush figures. Some kid won one and was walking through the fairgrounds with Sonic on his shoulders. I was sitting enjoying a refreshing beverage, and I said, okay, let's have just a little fun. And as he walked by, I just looked up and said, look, it's Sonic! The kid's head whipped around. I didn't say a word. I just went back to my beverage saying, don't look at me, I'm just some guy. That was fun. And then there was the other, I like to be accessible to people on Facebook and Twitter and stuff because I'm available. Stop by and see me. But there are boundaries. Someone said, oh, I'm going to be in New York. You're going to be in New York. I want to come meet you. Can I come meet you? Sure, tell you what. I've got a session, and then I've got another session. Then between sessions, I'm going to be sitting in Starbucks doing some work. Come watch me work in Starbucks. So I was sitting with my laptop, and this girl came by and said, oh, great, I want to meet you. Oh, nice to meet you. Great, I'm working. Great. Oh, nice to meet you. Great. We had a lovely chat. It was fine. I bought her a coffee or something. And then I had to go do a thing at 4 Kids. Packed up the laptop. They followed me down to 4 Kids, which was fine. They said, well, here we are in the lobby. I'm going up to the 11th floor. Bye. I went up. I started my session. Little did I realize they followed me. This was a girl and her friend. They had gone up and wanted a tour. You can't really have a tour of 4 Kids, especially without prior arrangements, because it's a business. People are there trying to make whatever cartoons they were trying to make. And a couple days later, I was called into the office and did you bring someone up here for a tour? No, not that Oh, them. I didn't bring them up for a tour. Did they come up for a tour? Yes, they came up for a tour. Oh, that wasn't supposed to happen. Yeah, don't do that again. So then I had to distance myself from online interactions for a few months because people had crossed the line. So yeah, that was a little stalkery experience. No one was injured, but it was Weird. Questions? 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 Question. Question. How are we for time? Oh, we still have time. 12 more minutes. Question.
What is it like for your children to hear you work?
They love it. They are really good at identifying my voice out of a crowd. So if I show up in a series, my son is now all into Pokemon, and I've got some bit parts on Pokemon. So he'll be watching bootlegged videos on YouTube and saying, "Hey, Dad, it's you. You're playing this guy." Yes, thank you. Thanks for noticing. And what's even makes me more proud is that they're starting to book their own work in some things. My daughter's done a commercial with me for St. Mary's Hospital in Brooklyn or Queens or somewhere around here. We both auditioned. My agent sent me in for an audition, and then I read the script and noticed they were looking for a child. And I said, "Oh, can I submit a child? I happen to have one." So she said, "Sure, submit a child." And she called back and said, "They want to book you, and who's this girl?" I said, "You mean my daughter?" "Yeah, was that really, you submitted your daughter?" "Yeah, you said that I could." "Well, you both booked it." "Well, great." Because if she booked it and I didn't, that would be very awkward. But we went down and we recorded it. We had a great old time. She was a natural. She couldn't quite read at the time, but she did the whole Charlie Brown animation thing of memorizing the line. And they were very happy. We both got a nice little paycheck. It was lovely. And my son is now the voice of the KOB Kid at Kia of Bedford in Bedford, Ohio, I guess. "I'm the KOB Kid, and I know about bargains and values." And I am essentially his engineer for these things. They say, "Hey, we got another thing for your son." So I go up to the home studio and record him, and he does a thing, and that's cool. So it's running in the family. Question, questions, question, question.
Doing voice work, do you find yourself like either not watching as many cartoons or watching more of them, or kind of getting picky with what you watch because of the performance?
I watch them differently. I watch them. Well, there's the one frame of reference of watching something and saying, "Why aren't I in that? I should be in that. That's not me. That should be me." And then there are other things that I will watch and say, "I could be in that and do it a lot better. These people are not very good. What's that? Why? Who hired? What's this?" And then there are other things that I'll watch and say, "Hey, I'm in that. That's pretty cool. Look at me. I'm on TV." And it's a kind of an East-West, like rappers, where the East Coast versus the West Coast rivalry. So all the West Coast stuff that I'm not in because I'm on the East Coast. Yeah, it's changed the way I watch things because I'm now part of the industry, and it's like, interesting. Questions? Bill Rogers, legend. Questions? 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 8 minutes. Questions? Question.
Want to stick around and do improv in half an hour?
I have to take my family away before they implode. But I'll see what I can arrange.
But we can go really fast.
I'll see what I can arrange. Questions? Questions?
I guess now that you mentioned like the East Coast turf war.
Representing. I don't know.
What's it like with the camaraderie with say Mr. Rogers or Mr. Schemmel and so on and so on?
It's a weird thing because we work together, but we don't work together. We will see each other in passing, but in most cases, the stuff we're doing, we're recording independently. So Bill's booked from 10 to 11. I'm booked from 11 to noon. "Oh, hey, Bill, how you doing? I'm just leaving. You're just coming in? Great, good to see you. Got to go. Bye." Is pretty much the extent of the interaction. There are rare occasions when we do record en masse, which is really fun. But again, those instances are few and far between. But we are all friendly, if not sociable, because we all have our own lives, and it's tough to get together because I have mangy children running around the house, and Bill is off doing his shows and stuff. And so these are the social events we see. And even still, I can't always spend as much time as I want with Bill because I brought the family along, But we're all as friendly as we can be without really spending a lot of time together. Questions? Questions?
Do you have any roles you want to do in the near future?
I'm not that picky. I love working, so any role that somebody wants me for, within reason, if it's not horribly obscene and if it's a decent paycheck, then sure, I love to work. So I don't work from the, I want to do this, I want to do this, I want to do this. I work from the, what's available? What can I read for? What can I audition for? What will someone hire me for? Or what would someone call me and offer me, which occasionally happens. So I just love to work. Big in theatrical would be awesome. I have done some recent theatrical pieces. A Cat in Paris, the Academy Award nominated French feature, which I dubbed into English as Mr. Baby, the bumbling gang member. That was fun, just to go into a theater and say, hey, I'm eating popcorn and I'm on the screen, look at me. So yeah, something big in theatrical or big in primetime TV type of stuff is always nice, but I love working. So even a boring audiobook, which could be less than 4 hours of recording a day, would be better. But and I probably wouldn't buy the physics book and spend 15 hours listening to myself. But still, I love working.
Now that you mention it, has anybody ever hired you on to read a children's book?
I've read a couple. I did a reading of A Christmas Carol. I don't know where that ended up or if anyone ever bought it. And then for the e-learning, the Korean e-learning thing that Bill was mentioning earlier, I read The Prince and the Pauper. But I would like to do more kids' books because it's fun to be able to narrate and do wacky voices at the same time. When reading the Nazi book, I wanted to do a lot of German dialects and stuff that wasn't really appropriate. I will do the voices for you! But I couldn't really. That wasn't really appropriate. Questions? And if not, we can go signing.
Did you already mention who your inspirations were?
Yes, I did. Bill Rogers, my inspiration. Yes. Cool. Bring up your Sharpies. Let's do a signing. Come on. Who wants stuff signed? Sharpies in a chair.
WeRiseMag.com